Timmy Gibson, and anyone else that's viewing. My name is Dan Paulson. Timmy, I've been watching your videos, and I thought, boy, I want to reach out to this guy. There's something that I've got going on that I'm finding in the Bible that proves beyond a shadow of a doubt that it's made by man and that it's on a repeating structure. It's very difficult to see, but once you learn how to see it in a numbering pattern, it's right in the Bible, you'll go, wow, it's there. I've just been not looking at it correctly the whole time. All right. Let me qualify myself a little bit before getting into that. I was raised, well, I'm 66 now, and I was raised near Seattle, Washington, in a town called Maple Valley, and we went to the Tahoma. Well, there's a Maple Valley church there that we went to that was a holy roller church, like what you talk about, speaking in tongues and all of that. As early as I can remember, we went to church there. We would be, I recall, 3 times a week, Sunday morning services up to about noon, evening services, and then Wednesday night services. I was also in the Royal Rangers. People that don't know that, it's like a church-oriented Boy Scouts. You do the same thing. You get badges, making a fire with one match, making a campsite, that sort of thing. But we also got badges for like memorizing Bible verses, the Lord's Prayer or something like that. So there was a religious component that was certainly stronger there than in the Boy Scouts. But it depended on the leader. We had a pretty lax one, so we had a lot of fun goofing around. I wanted to be in the Royal Rangers because it got me out of the church thing. But you know what? Here's what I want to say. There's a point in time in my life where there is abuse in the home. It's mental and it's physical. I should say right here, I am 1 generation away from being raised in Arkansas. My mother was born and raised in Arkansas, and then the family moved. Within a couple of years of moving here is when she got married to my biological father and had both me and my brother Larry. That didn't last. He was abusive. She said he burned us with cigarette butts. She had her own demons, but she was stepping right into a pattern. She was playing a pattern, and she's having kids that are going to be part of that pattern. So I'm the first generation of this family lineage that is being raised under the terms from this past, yet you're in a new place. So it's confusing. You look around and go, I don't fit. What I'm getting at home is not what I'm seeing in the world. People are not getting treated like I am getting treated. This isn't normal. I'm being beaten, and my friends are not. So somebody is losing their mind, losing their temper, and going into a rage. And my brother and I, Larry, was a year and a half older than me, and we would be the subject of somebody just whipping away, not like spanking you, but they have a rage, and the rage is going to play out, and you're trying to get away, you're trying to escape. We would have welts on our thighs, the chest, we'd get racked on your back. We'd be crying in the closet, huddled up as little kids. I remember things like that. I also remember being told, you kids better say your prayers before you go to bed at night, or you might die and go to hell. And we were afraid if we would not go to bed without saying prayers. We'd kneel down beside the bed, and now I lay me down to sleep. I pray the Lord my soul to keep. You know the prayer. And then when we were sure nobody was there was a few times I recall, we're about 8, 9 years old here. Larry's about 10 or 11, that we're actually like whispering close together. Let's ask Jesus to come and stop the beatings. Jesus, please. Please, it hurts. Will you please come and help us? We're scared. We don't know what to do. We're not doing anything wrong. Please come. We pleaded our little boy's eyes out, and nothing ever happened. You know that. I'm going to try to keep this part short. I'm going to put the headphones on. I need to listen to play back some things, and I edit some things in if I leave some stuff out. So, okay. There's a point in time. I'm 9, almost 10. Larry's 11. It's November. We go to church. We've been getting beaten. We've been getting whipped. We've been getting told you're stupid. You're damn dumb. You kids will never amount to anything. You're slower than a 7-year itch. Everybody heard that one. All the things that were, very much, I remember being, it seemed more than anything you were degraded, belittled, demeaned for doing things. You just felt put down all the time, and you got beat all the time. Well, this day, Larry was talking to me on the way home from Sunday school. Dad's at work, but Mom is driving us home. And he learned about heaven in Sunday school that day and talked about, I remember him talking about a few things. We had recently lost a cat, Blackie, who was in the engine compartment on a cold day, tried to get warm, yep. And he said we could see Blackie. We used to eat liver all the time, and we hated that. He said we wouldn't have to eat liver again. He said we'll never get spanked ever again. He learned about it in Sunday school. And that day, he took a rope and went into the woods and took his life, thinking that as soon as he died, he would just pop into heaven. He's 11. I'm 9. I wasn't going to do that. We had different brain types, but it was very hurtful. I found him. I tried to give him mouth to mouth. We learned that in the Royal Rangers. We never did it. We just saw the pictures. I just forced air into his stomach and made him throw up on everywhere. Anyway, so none of that ever got resolved. I'm a hurt little kid. Larry dies. There's a reprieve for a while. Everybody's like, oh my God, what happened? Nobody does anything, but gradually there's this return back to the normal pattern. Only now it's just me. I'm the stupid one. I'm the damn dumb one. There's younger brothers coming along afterwards. I'm not okay. I run away from home. At the age of 16, I quit school and just ran away. I didn't know what to do. I couldn't live at home anymore. I was just being, I don't know how to describe it. But I didn't start off doing very good either. You know, you're panhandling, you're doing things like that. You're at a point in time in life, people would look at you and say, look at that evil little kid. Look, he's stealing. He's stealing food out of the grocery store. Look at that. What a little thief. I was just trying to live. I did those things. I ate out of garbage cans. I'm getting a bit ahead of myself, though. There's a point in time at home where I'm 12 or 13 years old in the church, and this transition between reaching out to God and Jesus for help, this loving, caring, nurturing Savior, is in conflict with what you're saying, what you're doing, what you're believing, what you're putting into it, and what you're getting as a result. It's like, this isn't working. Nothing is helping me. Nothing is changing. If my life was okay, I wouldn't know that. But my life wasn't okay, and it was very evident to me. There was a point, 14, 15, something like that. I can remember getting a belt whipping. I remember making it stop short. I was getting big enough to where I was almost as tall as my mom. There's a point there where she had to transition to something different. But I remember this time getting whipped. And if you've ever been whipped with a belt, it stings. It really hurts when you get hit. Each whack is a really sharp sting. But within a couple of maybe 10 or 15 seconds or so, that kind of abates out slowly into what feels like a burn, like if somebody took a torch and wicked it along your arm at each spot like there. Each one of them is hot. You become very hot as the welts appear and the whipping has stopped, has abated. So for a time, you get very red, they swell up, the heat is there. I was in Maple Valley, Washington. I remember running outside, and it's drizzling outside. I went up into the woods, and I just put both fingers up like this and said, God, I've had it. Just take me. Take me. Take me. I dare you. I don't want to be here. If this is what you put me here for, take it back. I don't want it. Nothing happened. Anyway, I stood there till I felt cold, till it was cool, time to go in. So while I'm at home, I am transitioning and I'm not hooking into like you are and becoming a minister or things like that. I'm actually pulling back from it. And in fact, I am developing this actual I have an aversion to it because I feel at first like it took my brother. I don't have it quite worked out in my head, but I feel like my brother got tricked into thinking something that if he took his life, that he would have a better one somewhere else. And I felt like that was a waste and it was a lie. And I hated the Bible and Christianity and everything it stood for. But I went off in life and I did my own thing and I learned and I began to realize I've got a purpose here in life. It's to figure something out. Before I turned away from the Bible, I was that kid in Sunday school that would make the Sunday school teacher say, would you please stop asking questions? You know, like I would. So we have this imagination here, like you can either watch a movie or you can be in the movie. So as I'm listening to a story, it's like I'm there. I'm not watching it happening. I'm there. So as Jesus and the disciples are on the road and he finds a fig tree and he's hungry and it's not producing and he commands it to die. I don't feel like I'm watching that happen from a distance going, wow. I feel like I'm right there standing next to Jesus and the disciples, and I reach over and smack him in the arm and go, Jesus, you were hungry. We're all hungry. You had the power to kill that. You had the power to make it heavily laden with figs. I wouldn't have used heavily laden. You would have had the thing become ripe with figs or something like that. I would ask that question then. How come he didn't just have it become laden with figs? That seems kind of out of character for him. He got mad and made it die instead of something different. So something wasn't working out in my head in the stories. But I would because I play them out in there, they're easy to manipulate. They're easy to see. They're easy to inquire what is there. There is something there. The fig tree represents something that's emerging from you that is a waste. It's not producing anything good for you. Get rid of it. Wasteful stuff. It's not physical. It's mental, spiritual or mental, truly. To interact with it, you have to make it mental. That's what it means then. You destroy the things emerging from your garden that are not producing for you. All right, so there's something else that I remember. I remember thinking, how come these numbers repeat all the time? How come 3, 7, 12, 40 come up again and again? 40 days and 40 nights it rains. And after the Israelites cross the Red Sea, they spend 40 years in the desert. And after Jesus crosses the baptismal, he spends 40 days in the wilderness. I don't just see the 40s. I also see that, they've gone through some water and they're into a void. They're not in a city. There's a desert, there's a wilderness. Neither one of them is raucous. It's a quiet place. Oh, they're crossing the threshold, turning inward. And they're both the same motifs. Here's another identical one. It's very hard to see. I remember thinking 3 days in a whale and then getting spit out on shore with a fresh attitude, or 3 days in a tomb and then rising with a fresh life. They sounded very similar to me. Could 3 days in a whale, 3 days in a tomb, 40 days in the wilderness, and 40 years in the desert all be the same motif? They are. We have to get through the numbers. But the 3s and the 7s and those 12s, they actually are built into the story. That's why they continue to reappear. I've got 22 numbers identified in Genesis that I want to show you. We have to look at these blocks of numbers differently. These blocks of numbers is where we are going to collect 22 numbers that appear in excess of 6,000 times in the Bible. They're repeating for a reason. But we have a secret ally if we know what he's doing. Somebody that's had their hands on the ability to put modifications in the Bible in more recent times. And that is Archbishop Stephen Langton of Canterbury, who put in the chapters and the verses. We're told that he put the chapters and verses in so that you could, what happens at first, the stories don't have them in there. They're written down on scrolls, but they're known by most people in memory. You don't have chapters and verses in there. You just go through the flow. It would be like putting verses in a novel. Each chapter, you're breaking up the verses and putting them in there. So that would be kind of ridiculous in a story. The reason they're doing that, we're told, is because now we've developed enough to where people read, write, they send letters, we have correspondence. I can now discuss something with my friend across the ocean over there by having letters go back and forth. What do you think about this passage in here, Isaiah 3:16 or something like that? Different passages here or there you could reference to, and people can easily go there instead of just trying to identify in the story where it is. This gives you a very detailed way to find it. However, if you go through and look at what he's done, you're going to find out something. It looks like he did a sloppy job. It's variable. Sometimes it looks perfect. Sometimes it looks messed up. Sometimes it looks like, there's one sentence and one verse, and one sentence and one verse. Then there's a couple of words in one verse, couple of words. They're all in the same sentence. It's weird. Why would you do that? Why would you break up a sentence that it's very strange. We'll look at it. Also, where he broke up the chapters. what he's doing is he's pointing to a numbering concept that we don't know. If we had it memorized, we would have access to it, but since we don't have it memorized, we've lost access to it. All right, so I've gone on in life to study this material. I've got several hundred hours of CDs from the teaching company, from Bart Ehrman and other, scholars from around the world in global religions, world religions and mythologies. And all the independent research I do is right here at home. I don't have to go anywhere and travel to do it. It's in the books. It's in the books itself. If you knew the story of Genesis in a certain way, and you knew how many times nouns and verbs were repeated into it, you would be accessing a whole different layer. I want to show you some things in Genesis, though, that I want to talk about looking at them in a completely different light. They're going to be recognizable to you, but I want to say that they're very weird, but we can unlock them. They're code pieces. All stories under Abraham are going to be following this pattern. All stories under Abraham. Think about that. The Book of Mormon is not Abraham. Okay, let's go through here and find something. First of all, this is what gets your eye. There's a weird overlap in chapter 1 and 2. There's two creation stories. One of them even says God, and the other one says Lord God. They use different verbiage. One of them is a 7-day creation, and then it starts over. But he did not break it up in that place. He broke it up right here. But look what he did. Look where verse 3 is. Do you see the 7, 7, 7? Do you see 7 said 3 times, and him putting it right here on verse 3? He's trying to help us see something. There's a 3-7 grid beginning right here. What is this? What is this 3-7 right here? It is parallel to naked, unashamed in the Garden of Eden. So that gets into something a little bit deeper. We become Adam and Eve, honestly, when we're doing that. But I don't want to get into that part of it. I just want to show that numbering pattern. It's kind of weird, but if you think about it, one thing you should be able to read through Genesis and go, boy, they sure repeat a lot of words sometimes. Noah's name is said exactly 41 times, but it'll say things like Noah and his sons climbed the boat, and then Noah got on board the boat, and God talked to Noah and said, and you're like, my God, what is going on? They're counting a specific amount of times. They're putting it coded in there. The 40 days and 40 nights, the repeats, the things like that are going on. There's something happening. Imagine this. Imagine I'm sending you an encoded message. This is simpler than what they're doing. But imagine I'm saying something like, here, a runner is going to take this to you, and people could get access to it, so I need to hide a message in there. And I say to you, I'll meet you on 7th Street. I haven't been on 7th Street in a long time, but I really love all of the food options there are on 7th Street. See when you get there. And you read that message, and since I've said 7th Street 3 times, you know to meet me on 3rd Street. Secret. Shh. Okay, that's not much of a code. That's what they're doing here. Similar. They're repeating things by a certain amount of numbers. And that's going to mean something. The 7 is going to be important. The 3 relates to day 3. Day 3 is where God commanded the trees to create fruit that created seeds that creates more of itself in it, and so it did. It's the cause and effect. So right here we're starting out in life. 7 and 3, brand new in life, attached to the higher self, and living through cause and effect. That's how life will work. All right, I'm going to jump ahead a little bit and show you what I've got going on. This is a separate analog list, number analog count, 3-7 grid. This is where the 3s and 7s begin. When Jesus is 3 days in the tomb, this is it. This is the pure state. 7 is repeated 3 times. Conscious and inner self are in pure state. Our life has not collected judgments. So we've got Eden, pure state, pure soul state. And I've got a 3 and a 7 right there. You see all the other numbers? Where do those come from? They come from those analog farms. Let's look at those. Actually, first let me point out this. Do you see that this, if Cain shall be avenged sevenfold, truly Lamech, 70 and sevenfold. Do you ever wonder what that means? You just look at it and scratch your head and go, I don't quite get it. I mean, it's saving him. I get it, but it's just a weird numbering system. But sevenfold, 70. What I decided here was that what they've got is 7s, 2 7s surrounding a 70. What if that's the code? That's how they're telling you what to do. Sevenfold, truly the next 70 and sevenfold. Let's grab that 70 just Because why? We're experimenting. Here's something that's important to note. At the end of this Adam's analog farm, and all the days of Lamech were 777 years, and he died. 3 different numbers, but we've got 3 sevens right there. And it's at the end of this analog farm. In between these 2 numbers, I'm looking at this going, I think that these are instructions. Let me play with it and see. Does that mean I'm supposed to gather up everything that 7 grabs a hold of? I come down here and I start looking at the numbers, and first off, they look weird, don't they? But there's something about the King James Version that is very important to look at, and I only do this with the King James Version. Downstream modifications are too extensive. They've lost this, or much of this. This stuff will be intact. But here we've got our 930 years, and he died, or 805 years, 807, 912, 815. And right off the bat, I noticed that, you know what, there's my 30, there's my 7, there's my 12. What have I got? There's a 35, 2. These are very familiar repeating numbers. Here we go, 80 and a 7 again. So what if I treat them as if they are not compound numbers, not ages, that they're code? How many times does 900? What if I, right here, let's try this one, 807. What's that 7 doing? What's that 800? 800 is this. 800 is repeated exactly 7 times. 800 is surrogate for a 7. This is a 7 and a 7 right here. It's really just code that's pointing to itself. Every time an 800 appears now, we're going to grab the 15, we're going to grab the 90, the 5, the 30, just like that, okay? 900, let's see what happens there. Same results. So what are we going to do? We've got our 30, we've got our 12, we've got our 5, 10, 60, 2. So we're going to treat these exactly as if it's some sort of a number grid that when you find repetitions, you gather up what is with them. The reason we don't know this is because look at what I'm doing. I'm using the computer. We don't know it well enough. We don't have it memorized. We can't see this. We can't see this layer. If we had the story memorized, we could probably tell you, oh yeah, I mean, if you lived through this, which is what they're doing, this is their media of the day. They're very deep into this. Okay, so the same thing continues to happen, though. You see the 40 right there. Names also are repeated exactly a certain amount of times. Canaan is 5 times here, for example. I don't have this modified heavily because this is my actual copy of the Bible. But this is an analog form. I'm going to point out some analog gathering here that I don't cover very often. This is in chapter 7. 7, guess what? There's our sequence. He's pointing the way. 7 is a pure state. 7 is when the flood happens, when the purification happens. So this is pointed to. But look at the numbers that are in here. I won't spend a lot of time on them right now. Just look at how they repeat. 7s, 7, 7, 40, 40, 600, 2, 2, 7, 600. 17th is a new one introduced. Second, Noah is 41 times. I know that. I don't have that one in here. 40, 40, 3, 2, 2, 40. Isn't this repetitious? 15 and 100, 50. Okay. And we have another 17th down here. So 17 we've gathered up as another number. That's going to be important. Watch this. Sarai. That's our pure state self in the beginning. 17 times. Yep. 17, we gather that up as one of our numbers. See, if we just keep doing this, we're going to find that there's a consistency in the way that they're patterning, not just the numbers, but how many times names are repeated, which tells us the value of that person on the template. It gets thick. All right, let's look at this one. This is, what is this? It's the Shem analog, or the Shem lineage, actually. But I call them analog farms because we're here to gather the numbers. And in this case, it's an older style. This was the smaller numbers. The Adam's analog farm was added later, and the numbers increased It still adds more to them, though. It shores them up. But here we have a couple of things happening, like backwards. Backwards. These numbers are written in such a way. They've been straightened out in later versions. It'll say 35 in the NSRV. It's 5 and 30. It's supposed to be two separate numbers, 5 and 30. Gather them up. They're not compound. 400, anyway, it does the same thing. I don't want to spend too much time on that. Let's jump down to a different style. This one is in chapter 18, and this is Abraham talking to God as they're getting ready to go in for the destruction. Here's something that I want you to just... It almost sounds like a Dr. Seuss. And Abraham drew near him and said, will you also destroy the righteous with the wicked? What if there's 50 righteous within the city? Will you not destroy and not spare the place for the 50 righteous that are in there? Far be it from you to do in that manner, to slay the righteous with the wicked, that the righteous should be as the wicked. And you shall not judge the earth, do right. And the Lord said, if I find in Sodom 50 righteous within the city. Okay, so we just have this repetition going on that sounds kind of a weird thing. And if you look at it, it doesn't even accomplish anything. It was added in later. It could have ended right here in 21. I will go down now and see whether they have done together according to the cry of it, which has come unto me. If not, I will know. And if that jumped all the way down to 19, and then there came two angels to Sodom at even, that's exactly how it goes. This is just added in to gather numbers. It doesn't do anything. It doesn't change anything. It's just a dialogue of repetition. Righteous is said 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 times. That is why these other numbers gather up. And what do we have? 50, 50, 50. 50 repeated 3 times. You see how they're using something, words, nouns, verbs, something, other numbers repeated exactly 7 amount of times, but you're going to spot them because they're repeated kind of rapidly. They're in a rapid succession. They're almost a sing-song kind of a thing. You stop and count them. So they're very evident if you know to read them that way. It's like we've been reading them all along, but we're not reading it that way. If we treated Genesis as if it was a video game that plays out in antiquity, and that memorizing it was the only way to have the game, you had to have it memorized in order to have the game, and then it had to play out in the mind, in the theater of the mind. We're not doing that. 4. There's one down here, 50 righteous. So 4 times 50 is repeated. We got 4, we got 50. So we gather that up. 5, lack of 5, 40 and 5. So 5 is said 3 times. 40 is said 1, 2, 3 times. 30 is said twice, and 20 is said twice, and 10 is said twice. And that's just to gather up the numbers. That's just to say, here, these are part of the code. They don't do anything else. The lineages do something, this one doesn't. It's just a way to gather numbers. I want to bounce downstream just for a second to have you consider something here. This is the book of Matthew, so this is long after Genesis. I said in the beginning there was a code being used through all Abrahamic material. This number cross-referencing is what we're going to see. If I look in Matthew right here, first of all, let's look at 3. 3 is repeated 12 times. It's cross-referencing itself and ensuring to maintain the template. What about 7? Exactly 12 times. What about 12? Exactly 12 times. This is just one example of many that are going to be so tightly maintained that we just don't know it, but it's right there. But the depth of knowledge we would have to have is extreme, or we just have to get in there and use the computer, download it, and play with it. Being careful what version. It looks to me like the King James Version is the one that's the tightest with the numbering patterns. Things are a little more, people try to straighten things up and they're actually dropping the code. They're not knowing it's there, changing verbiage and whatnot that needs to be repeated a very specific amount of times. So what's happening is that 7:3 right there denotes the beginning of a human life before we begin to judge life and fall off. We're no longer happy kids in the play box. Now we're judging life and having other experiences. That's what first sin is. When we're naked, unashamed in the Garden of Eden, Adam and Eve, that represents the conscious and the subconscious of each person. And we're there with God, which means we're living through our higher awareness. We're not living through our memories. We're not. We're alive, but we're living through a higher awareness that we don't have the mental cognition to recognize, to understand. We're just pure energy. Then we begin to judge life and live through our memories. That's first sin. That's 8. That's the next step from 7 to 8. That's when circumcision happens. You're supposed to cut off what's happened there. So 8 becomes the place where first sin resides. So 8 is a bad number on the template. 7 is a good place. 8, we've stepped off. So the numbers are going to represent the stages of a human life. 7 is a pure state again. We get to the purging there. 12 is where Abram and Sarai are called and put in a land of famine. 12 is one of our numbers. That's the beginning of the Abrahamic religion. Where were Adam and Eve? Naked, unashamed, in the Garden of Eden, told to restrict their diet. Don't eat of the tree of knowledge. Mental consumption. Don't judge life. But you're going to go off and judge life, and you're going to become products of that. And you're going to have continual pain in childbirth, representing the idea that what you've judged up here is going to continue to happen. And you're going to be subservient. The subservient comes from the inner self, is a product of the conscious thinking. The consciousness is Adam, Eve is the subconscious. And they're just using those because that's how society works. That's how the patriarchal society works. So they're using that, but really what it is, it references the inner self. So everybody's consciousness is Adam. Everybody's inner self is Eve. Everybody's higher awareness is God. When Cain and Abel, there's a division that happens there. Chapter 4, division after stage 3. Division happens and we leave the presence of the Lord. That's where we begin to live exclusively through our life experiences, judging our life experiences and living unaware of much more than that. When we get to the point where we're ready for the flood to happen, that represents the idea that that's my world that has gone bad. That is myself. I need to destroy my judged experiences and start over again. I need to return to my naked, unashamed state on the other side of the flood, naked, uncovered, feeling buzzed off of new wine, which is what? Off of my new garden, off my new life experiences. I feel good as a result of that. So I'm drunk off the wine of my new garden and naked in my tent, which is a good thing. His sons cover him up, which is what? We don't want to be covered. However, that naked stuff stops early. They're not going to continue having naked be an analog for a pure state in Abrahamic material. They're going to revert to pure robes, linen robes, cotton robes, dirty robes, burlap robes, something like that, sackcloth. The covering, when you read those, represent what are you covered with. If it's sackcloth, it's shame, it's pain, it's hurt. If it's linen, I'm covered with nothing, I'm pure. You can know everything about me. I got nothing to hide. I'm not living through any sort of mental turmoil. So that is how the stories are working. But let's take a look at the number pattern again. I want to show you how they lock that 7-3 in the beginning of the mythologies, the stories. Okay, it starts right here in Exodus. And as we go through, this is what I mean about the breaking up the chapters and verses. Now, these are the names of the children of Israel, which came into Egypt. Every man in his household came with Jacob. That's one verse and one sentence. Now look what happens. Reuben, Simeon, Levi, and Judah is its own sentence. Issachar, Zebulun, and Benjamin, Dan and Naphtali and Gad and Asher. Why aren't they all on just one, on verse number 2? Why would he break them up like that? Let's come down here to verse number 7. This is 7. We need a 7-3 acknowledgement. If we look, and if we knew, if we had it memorized, if we saw abundant in Exodus, we see that we've got our 7 and 3 right there, built into the story, but it's hidden. The land was, I've got that identified. The land is your experience, your world. The land was 3 times. So twice right there we have on verse number 7. So what's he doing? He's pushing. If you read through here, you would get to that as a concept. 7 and 3 right there. But if it's not numbered, you would not know that. You would not know it's a concept. He's forcing that concept to be in verse number 7 so that you know it's there. You'll find it that way. That's why he left these like that. That's the only explanation. He had to make sure we spotted this 7, 3. So he created the 7. Yeah, the verse right there for it. Does that make sense? Does that stand up? Let's go look elsewhere. All right, here we are in Leviticus. And you might look at this and go, I see something weird there. I don't get what it is. And that's okay. It takes a while. It's like sitting down and watching somebody explain calculus for the first time. You're not going to go, oh, okay, I get it. You're going to have to stop and figure out all the pieces and parts there's layered. All right, we get into Leviticus, and what we get down here too is verse number 7, and the sons of Aaron. Let's check it out. There we have it, 7-3. Order. There is 7 times, okay. Upon the fire. 3 times. All right, so they've got this one doubled up. 7-3, 7-3, 2 times. The priest shall put fire upon the altar, shall put 18. That's a negative thing. So it's time to move on. These are things we're going to find that are patterned in the story because if somebody knew them well enough, they could decode it by knowing how many times something is repeated. Is the sons of Aaron a good or a bad thing? Sons of Aaron is your pure state. 7-3, this represents us in the beginning again. Same as in Genesis. 7-3, lined up with the Garden of Eden. All right, what do we have from Deuteronomy? Same thing, King James Version. We get down to verse 7. This one you can see actually there's a complete sentence, a verse. 2 is a complete sentence. And it came to pass in the 4th and 11th month, the first day of the... Well, no, they're not complete sentences. You get down here on this side of the Jordan in the land of Moab, began Moses to declare this law, saying, the Lord our God spake. There's no reason for that to be there. What the reason for it is to make sure that 7 is right here. Turn you and take your journey. What happens if we take our journey? Or if we look, we're going to see that take your journey is said 3 times. Turn you and take your journey, 7-3. What is this? It's time for us to approach 8. Journey is said 8 times. So what we have here is it's time to turn inward to heal. It's going to be a tough trip. Turn inward. Take your inward journey. Lebanon is said 3 times. So this one's got a little more detail in it, but you see he's maintaining the 7-3 there that we don't see unless we try to figure out why he's numbering them so goofy. There's a method to his madness. He's doing exactly what we need. He's saying, hey, McFly, look here. All right, I promise you this is so prevalent I can just keep going on and on about this. It's a pretty massive discovery once you figure it out. And once you have to use the computer to see it. I jumped to Joshua just to kind of move around a bit. What do we have down here at verse number 7? First of all, everything looks okay as far as sentences. Well, there's one minister saying, Moses, my servant. So there's one up above where it's not a complete sentence. As I said in the Moses, from the Moses. These are down here. So he shifted one down. At any rate, here we have verse 7. Only be thou strong and be very courageous. Courageous, 7 times. I don't have to go look. You see what I'm doing. Commanded thee 3 times. Right hand 3 times. Well, throughout the entire story of Joshua, this is what you're going to find. Courageous is going to be repeated exactly 7 times. It's going to be pointing back to this point right here. The commanded thee and the right hand or to the left. The left is repeated 16 times. Right is repeated 3 times. So we see that there's differences in the meaning of the analogs by how many times it's repeated. But the 7-3 beginning is being maintained in every story. Abrahamic material is following a very dedicated, specific, non-negotiable pattern. All right, we're going to take a look at Isaiah here. It looks a little different. I sourced this from a different place. We're going to find down here that at number 7, I don't find a 7-3. I do find burned, which is derogatory. Yeah, burned with fire. Your cities are burned with fire. Fire is a good thing. That should be, land strangers. That's not good. 13. So that means our interior, it's time to turn inward. This is our bunch of memories. We got to turn inward. When we get back to 3 is where we're going to find it. 3 is where the 3-7 grid is. Ox, 7 times. Yep, exactly 7. Ox or oxen. All right, I want to show you another style. This is in Ezekiel. They're trying to spread the code around. 7, and the feet, which were straight feet, and the sole of their feet was like the soles of the calf's foot, and they sparkled like the color of burnished brass. Okay, you see feet is repeated 1, 2, 3 times right in this verse 7. Doesn't seem like much, but we're going to find precedent for that elsewhere. That is another technique we're going to see. Let's go to, we want to jump from Ezekiel here to Jonah. All right, what we're going to see here is that the term lot or lots is repeated exactly 3 times in verse 7. And they said, every one to his fellow, come, let us cast lots, that we may know for whose cause this evil is upon us. So they cast lots, and the lot fell upon Jonah. Okay, lot. And if I look here in the book, lots, that's it. 3 times. So we got our 7-3 acknowledgement in a slightly different way. Well, the word's repeated exactly 3 times, but you could see it right here. It's not spread out. You can see it right in one spot. What do we have in 8? Then they said to him, tell, we pray thee, for whose cause this evil is upon us. What is your occupation? What do we have? We have our step from good to bad. So our 8 right there is, the evil happens. So there's a sequence happening in the numbers. It's hard to see again. All right, one more. Let's jump out of mainstream. This one should be easy to recognize now that I've alerted you to that. Jesus said, blessed is the lion, which becomes man when consumed by man, and cursed is the man whom the lion consumes, and the lion becomes man. So lion is repeated 3 times there. What if we were to take a look through the entire gospel? All right, so I've got one lion added in and another one down here. So I've actually corrupted the document for searching. You got to be careful. It's not too bad. But 2 of these are mine, as I'm writing in my description. I need clean copies for doing this. But that's it right here. This is the only 3 places in the entire Gospel of Thomas where lion appears. 7, 3, right there. So that's a technique that if you observe it, now that you see it, you can't unsee it. All right, this one is very short. It's only 64 verses. It is, it's been recommended reading by some church fathers in the past, but it's fallen out of favor. It exists as an apocryphal gospel, something that's not approved. But look at what's happening here. Verse number 3, daughter. Let's see here. Daughter? Sure enough, 7 times. We've got our 3-7 acknowledgement in this material. Tell me it's not sourced from the same place as the same school as the other material. We get down to verse 7. What do we have? Went, her, husband, walk, to walk. There's several. Walk. Walk 3 times. Walk or walking. Walk, walking, or walked. Husband. 3 times. All right. Any questions? 7, 3, 7, 3. The stories are following a pattern. 8, and the 2 elders saw her going in every day. This is first sin, walking so that their lust was inflamed towards her. Yeah, this is the temptation. You know what, though? This one's going to turn out different. She's going to escape the temptation. Opposite of what happened to Eve. She does not follow the temptation where Eve does follow the temptation. So they're 2 different stories, but they're built from the same school, and they're following same human life patterns. Let's look at a few more. All right, we get to Matthew. We're going to find that there's a fun variation. There's something different here. When you look at 7, there's not a 3 connected with it. When you look at 3, there's not a 7 connected with it. There is an 8. Judas, bad. Judas is bad, isn't he? 8 is bad, first sin. But you know what this is? It's a lineage. It's not a calling of the hero yet. You'd have to know what that means. It's another layer. We get down into chapter 2. Now, when Jesus was born in Bethlehem of Judea in the days of Herod the king, behold, there came wise men from the east to Jerusalem. Now our hero is being born. Let's go see what there is here. I don't find it in 3, but when we get to 7, here's what we see. 7, then Herod, when he had privately called the wise men, inquired of them diligently what time the star appeared. All right, let's look. 7, diligently. You see, it's 3 times exactly. I don't have to do the other one. You can do it if you want to. Star is 7 times. But we've got 7 and 3 right here. Okay, that's in Matthew. This is still being maintained. There's a pattern in the background that these stories are following, a consistent numerical pattern. All of Abrahamic material is following. Again, not the Book of Mormon. How about the Book of Mark? Super simple. We just come down here to 7, and what I find is, and preached, saying, there cometh one. So, we go look, and sure enough, there cometh one is exactly 3 times. So, again, we have acknowledgement to this. Beginning of the story is a 7-3. This is that pure early state. It is so hard to see what is going on. It's so thick, and we get so wrapped up into looking at it outwardly or denying that the outward is true, which is, I agree, it is not true. However, there's something in here that is true, that is not understood by either the theist nor the atheist. Remember poor old Job? He had 7 sons and 3 daughters to start with. 7, 3. Male, female, Adam, Eve. 7, 3. There's a beginning. He's got 7,000 sheep, 3,000 camels, 500 oxen. Let's look down to 7 here, though. What we have is walking. 7, 3. Walking. Let's make sure. There we have it. 7-3 grid begins here at the beginning of the story. All right, I'm going to jump back to Proverbs. Not everything in the Bible is written on the monomyth template. There are other styles of teaching, yet, nevertheless, they are going to be following the same dedicated pattern. So as we come through Proverbs here, what we get down to, verse number 7, the fear of the Lord is the. Let's see. Is the 3 times. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge. That's a good thing. But fools despise. 18. That's not good. Wisdom and instruction. My son, hear the instruction of my father, and forsake not the law of my mother, of your mother. This means that you are going to become a product of your conscious decision making, and you're going to act out through the stored memory as a result. This is very mentally interactive, but it's very old. All right, 7-3 right here in Proverbs. Not a monomyth. All right, I want to bounce out an oddball. I don't find this anywhere else, but I find it here. It kind of makes sense. This is the Song of Solomon. And if I get to verse 3, I find ointments is repeated 3 times, but I don't find anything in here that is repeated 7 times. If I go down to 7, I check and check and check, and I find flock is repeated 7 times, but I can't find anything that's repeated 3 times. So I don't find a 7-3 acknowledgement here. However, I find a 3-3 and a 7-7. I don't see that anywhere else. So I'm thinking that that might be another style of putting together the 3-7 beginning. Hard to say. Solomon 7 times. Anyway, okay, that one is there. Song of Solomon, little bit of an oddball, but it still is pulling in those numbers in the same places. Okay, let's jump to Daniel real quickly. What we have right down here is very interesting. It's going to be helping us understand the analogs too. We've got a 3 and a 7 down here, and that eunuchs is repeated 7 times. What is a eunuch? A eunuch is a male that does not have the capacity to reproduce. So this would analogously be like somebody who is not judging life. You're not reproducing, but this is mental reproduction. You're not creating seeds through judged memories that you're holding. We all end up becoming that way. But in this case right here, a eunuch is somebody that is not going to fall astray. They're not going to need to get into a point where, what is this, Daniel? What do we get down to 8 where it's time to sin? But Daniel purposed in his heart that he would not defile himself with a portion of the king's meat. Okay? He's not going to go down the bad path. He's going to be like if you were in the Garden of Eden and you ate of the tree of life instead of the one of knowledge of good and evil, or like in Susanna, if you read that one where the corruption is, the temptation is there, the old men are trying to get her, but she escapes of it and she doesn't end up getting corrupted. And we see that Daniel ends up not getting corrupted. You should be able to see sort of similar motifs, and it's probably very, very cloudy to see anything emerging through the numbering pattern. It's taken me years of looking at that to do it. And it's like calculus. You can listen to somebody tell you, but if you don't sit and figure it out, it doesn't make a lot of sense to you. You know what? Let's go for the big kahuna in the Bible as far as the Bible's concerned, although I've got a bigger kahuna than this right after this one. Revelation, King James Version. This is end times. What is it doing? It's following a pattern. 3, blessed. Let's make sure. Blessed. Sure enough, 7 times. So 3 and 7 right there. Prophecy. Is that a second one? Exactly so. What if we go down to 7? Even so? Even so is repeated exactly 3 times in Revelation. 7-3 grid. It's following a template. It's following the same pattern that's been established since Genesis and using the same numbers. The exact same numbers. All right, I want to talk about this count for a minute here. I'm not going to get into great detail on it. It is super huge. If it was easy to see, we'd all see it. All right, so I've got all of the numbers that I've collected up here. I'm not positive if they're all exactly right, but they're fairly close. I've got things like division and preparation. That's where Cain and Abel split. Transition, you're ready to move on, 9. But all of these down here, 8, 11, 13, 21, they represent something that needs to be destroyed. Look what happens if we go to Genesis and put these in here. Look at Sodom, Adah, creature, Gerar. Actually, first, let me do this. Do you see this up here? Lamech, Zillah, and Adah. Lamech is a man that has 2 wives. They are Zillah and Adah. Let's go look at those in Genesis and see what happens. The story is going to be nesting a... You can go left, you can go right. How is your life going to be? It can go good, it can go bad. So Lamech is going to be... Let's take a look here and see what we come up with. Put Lamech's name in, see how many times. Lamech's name is repeated exactly 10 times. Since that comes from our analog list from the 7-3 grid, that tells me Lamech is pure state male. Right there. That's like 7. Zillah. That's one of his wives. He took to himself 2 wives. One was Adah, the other was Zillah. Okay, Zillah being said 3 times tells me she's the good element. What happens here when we look at Adah? We see Adah's name is repeated 8 times. So we know then, remember, treat it like a video game. You're playing it in your mind. You're going along. This is you. They're elements of you. I can go good. I can go bad. All of that. That's how this works in a way to guide, not in an external, outward-looking way, but an inward-looking way. A more Buddha, a more Taoist way. So I hope so far this makes you go, oh my God, I've never seen that before. I never thought of that. It's there. We don't know how to look at it. We just don't look at it in the right way. What I'm going to do here, though, is really break it out in something that's even more astounding. This is the Babylonian creation epic, the Enuma Elish. The Enuma Elish. Let's take a look at something in here. I'm going to start looking for some patterns. 3. All right, it comes up 5, which sounds like it's part of that number list from Genesis, isn't it? 2 of them, however, are 300 and 300, the gods. So 3 is repeated exactly 3 times. That's it. Let's look at a couple of other things in here. We got shelter in here. What do you think that sounds like, shelter? 3 times. Sounds like a good place to be. I wonder. What do you think? This is Babylonian, not Jewish. What about divine counsel? Three times. There is an evil element in here named Lady Huber. Lady Huber is the one that creates all of the destruction. Lady Huber is repeated 8 times. 8 times. Isn't that kind of astounding here? What about, let's see, poison? Eight times. That's a bad thing, isn't it? How about net? Why would that be? Net is what you use to catch the evil in. But sleep. 7. Sleep is something we want. We do not sleep well at night. Some get sleep. During the day and night, we cannot relax. Our mind is in frazzle. Yeah. Okay, so what I want to suggest here is that this numbering pattern utilizing the analogs that seems like it's developed in Genesis is actually in play before Genesis. I can't find anywhere where it's developed in Babylonian works. This is a complete... The Genesis analog farms are the places where those numbers are collected, but you can see that they were derived from previous Babylonian sources. The Babylonians were already following that coded pattern, and then when we look around the world, we're going to find everybody is that are legitimate. Again, not the Mormon Bible. The Book of Mormon is not legitimate as far as this training and teaching. Joseph Smith had no idea what was in there. He just created a religion for, whatever. Okay, all right, I'm going to do something else here real quick with the Enuma Elish. The destruction needs to happen. Marduk is called to be the called hero, Marduk. Marduk's name is repeated exactly 41 times in the Enuma Elish. If we go to Genesis, what we're going to find is that Noah is the individual who is being called. The destruction needs to happen. Noah is the called hero. Noah. His name is repeated exactly 41 times. He's taking on the exact same role in Genesis. What else do we see? In the Enuma Elish, what we would have, I'll just talk about this instead of look it up. Apsu is the creator god, creates the world, gets trapped away. When Marduk returns, Marduk reemerges Apsu, the creator god, from the background. Apsu is back with Marduk. But for the time it went bad, the bad got rid of Apsu, the creator god. So the creator god was out of the picture while everything was going bad until it was time for the change to happen. What happens in Genesis? Cain and Abel. Cain leaves the presence of the Lord. The Lord God is not there at all until when? Until it's time for calling Noah. It's time for the destruction of the world. Those are both following the exact same pattern. The exact same pattern. However, the analogs are different. But conceptually, it's the same thing. And they all represent us. My early self has gotten corrupted. My conscious self has decided I've had enough of this crap. I'm going to become my own hero, turn inward, change the way my life is. And bingo, there we have it. People that don't, well, you know what? Christians live at chapter 6 in the Bible. That flood's not coming. They're gonna wait till they die for that flood. It'll just wait till you die. You'll see. I tell them, you know what? I challenge you. When you die, come and find me wherever I am. Look down upon me from heaven and say nanny, nanny, boo-boo to you. Go ahead, tease me. Wait till you die so that you can do that. Go right ahead. Okay, life is to be lived now. I told you in the beginning what my story was without going into a lot of detail, but there's a point where interacting with this material, honestly, was what saved me. There's a point where the simplest way to put it would be in Jesus' terms, that if you come to the altar to leave a gift, and while there you remember you have aught against your brother, set down the gift, go resolve the aught, then come back and give your gift. There's another place where it says your Father who sees in secret will reward you in secret. We get this idea here. This is me. This is my life. Why would I leave a gift at the altar? I'm looking for graces. I'm looking for God's good graces. My life sucks. Please, Jesus, please help us stop the abuse. It's not happening. It's not happening. I am developing aught against my brother. I'm filling up the mote in my eye. If I'm looking for a better life, I can't just leave that stuff in place. I have to stop looking for a better life and resolve that stuff. I've got to forgive my source, where I came from, understanding that if you're born in a cesspool with a bunch of people, you're just born in a cesspool with a bunch of people. You have to work your way out of it if you want to. If not, you're going to stay in a cesspool. It's up to you. All right, so your Father who sees in secret will reward you in secret. What is that? It doesn't matter. Forget about the idea of God. What you need to do if you're looking for a better life is resolve the baggage. You're living through it. We're living through our stored memories up here through cause and effect. They're the seeds that were planted that grow the trees that have more seeds that continually go around and around. These are much simpler than what, if they're not interpreted, they become very complicated. If you interpret them, they become very simple. They're very much about my life. So if I've got issues and I'm looking for a better life, stop looking for the better life. You're living through that. Resolve the issues and you'll cease to live through those. The better life happens automatically. Your Father who sees in secret rewards in secret. That's my story. I realized that I had to interact with this material, the very material that enticed my brother to take his life, had to become my ally to save mine. How fucking weird is that? Anyway, what a long, strange trip it's been. Yeah. Alrighty. Well, you know what? I wanted to do this reach out. I'm just excited about this. I can't find anybody to talk to. It's really thick. It's deep. I need sharp minds that know the Bible. Religious people, YouTube people today don't know the Bible. They don't understand the conflict. They don't even know that from chapter 1 till 11, it wasn't a full-on monotheism. Not until chapter 12 when the calling of Abram and Sarai, the calling hadn't happened until Abraham. This is everything going bad to begin with. So, yeah. Then destroying Sodom is the same thing as destroying the earth. We're constantly running through whatever this is. This is analogous for me. This is my earth, my experience. This is my Sodom, my city. This is what I have built through my early experiences of anger and hatred and being a stupid kid that would never amount to anything, that was just worthy of getting beat. I had to get beyond all. I had to forgive everybody and understand that that's what happened to them. And the only way for me to get out was to let that stuff go, to forgive, to take the mote out of my eye, to forgive the odd against my brother, to unjudge things, to become poor in spirit. All right, but it becomes something that sounds like if you worship outward and relinquish outward, that's what Christianity does. It's all about relinquishing outward, when in all reality, if you interpret it and turn it inward, that's what really happens. And the God disappearing and then reappearing is this. We live through our memories, but stop sometime and look at your life outside your memories. very objectively. From this position right here, you don't even feel the emotions of the memories. This is the higher awareness. We don't know that. We live through that when we're kids, except we don't have the mental cognition. It's necessary for us to live life and learn. And the right people, certain people, are going to look at this and go, something's wrong here. Something's inside out. I got to turn this material inward. It's my inner path that I must take. So there's very few people that are going to do that, but that's what all of the stories are. I don't know if I covered everything. I'm probably just going on and on now. Honestly, entering through the narrow gate is turning into the mind. And many are called, few are chosen, means many become Christians and grab onto the religion, but few understand what it is. It's written in such a way, though, that the practitioner is going to think, I'm the called one. I'm the one that's entered the narrow gate, when in all reality, they're the ones standing on the outside. The people that are the non-believers, you've got believers and you've got non-believers, and you've got the few that enter the narrow gate. Many carry the ark, few see inside. The ark is the story. Everybody carries it. Few see inside of it. It's an interpretation process, and it's thick, but it's there telling us exactly that over and over again if we learn how to maneuver the verbiage in our thought process. I can't resist doing this. It's very simple to understand. It's what we're after in the other material. However, the Abrahamic material is super thick and hard to understand. This is very simple. This is what we're actually looking at. The Tao that can be told is not the eternal Tao. We must understand what that is. We have to get into this and interrogate the verbiage. The Tao is the pathway. The pathway that can be told is not the eternal pathway. Then what is the eternal pathway? The pathway that can be told. What if you don't tell it? What if you what? What if you find it? What if you take it on your own? Oh, the path that is taken is the eternal path. Okay? It's a mental path. It's yours. It's your trip. Nobody's going to sit and preach to you and make you feel better. This is your path. The Tao that can be told is not the eternal Tao. The Tao that is taken is the eternal Tao. Make it yours. The name that can be named is not the eternal name. That's us in pure state. The unnameable is the eternally real. Judge not. We're going to anyway. Naming is the origin of all particular things. Remember, this is mental. Gia Fu Feng translation says the named is the mother of 10,000 things. These are our memories, our thoughts, our bundle of memories we're going to live through. Free from desire, you realize the mystery. That's free from hanging on to these things you've named. You realize the mystery of life. Caught in desire, you see only the manifestations. Okay, this first one, free from desire, you realize the mystery. Jesus is going to say that exact same thing in radically different verbiage. What is it? Free from desire, you realize the mystery. Blessed are the poor, for yours is the kingdom of heaven. Free from desire, you realize the mystery of life. Free from hanging on to things. Blessed are the poor. Poor what? Poor in spirit, it says in Matthew. Poor in Luke. Differences between Sermon on the Plain, Sermon on the Mount. You always know it's mental no matter what. Doesn't matter whether it tells you that. So it's going to be poor in spirit, whether it says it or not. Blessed are the poor. This is devoid of those judgments. Free from desire, you realize the mystery. Blessed are the poor, for yours is the kingdom of heaven. Good life. Caught in desire, you see only the manifestations. Judge not, lest you be judged. You're being judged for the things you're judging. You're caught into those. Yet mystery and manifestation come from the same source. The source is called darkness. Good and bad comes from the same place. We continue to get energy for our life experiences from somewhere. You've got something stored away, but you're not looking for these things to trigger out all the time. Where the hell does that come from? Good stuff, bad stuff, all from the same place. Yep. The source is called darkness. Darkness within darkness. The gateway to all understanding. That's in your mind, and that's through the narrow gate. Okay? When we get over into Abrahamic material, it is very thick verbiage where the outside intent is to create conditions for psychological control of a population. Where this is more plain language, it's like, this is yours. It's yours. You figure this out. Where the other one is like, okay, you do the same thing with it. However, it's packaged and wrapped in such a way that if you don't know that, it's going to have a major impact on you. If you don't know the Lao Tzu stuff, It's not going to impact you at all. Abrahamic stuff? Oh, yeah. Yet, it's made on the same template. It's the candy shell that is the religion. Everybody, I hope it was interesting. Hope you survived the video. There's something big out there. And it's so big that you realize someone's in the background fooling all of us. We just don't know how to look at it because we don't have it up here. But Langton was pointing the way. He realized we're not memorizing it anymore. Writing was coming about. Plato at the same time was saying people are not able to communicate with the same level of intelligence that they once did, because now that writing has come about, they don't know the material to the depth of memorization anymore. You ask somebody a question and they go, I don't know, let me go look that up. It didn't used to be that way. That's exactly what is happening. And Langton knew that. Same thing right there. The chapters are steps along the way, natural steps. And the verses are the sequences. The steps are too. You get to a 7, you're going to find a purifying. You get to an 8, you're going to find things going bad. Those are the patterns that you look for. But they're sitting right there. They're right in our face. We just don't look at them. I looked at them and looked at them because I was like, there's something weird there. And I think once the analog farm comprehension came into play, and I realized that they're using like 900, 800, righteous, repeated a certain amount of times to become surrogates for 7, that's how it opened up. Yeah, you just have to sit and go through the computer because I definitely don't know it well enough. Anyway, I'll end the video. I know it got long. Hope it was interesting. Take care.